Today, we're going to be talking about how businesses, specifically NeoClouds and cloud service providers, can achieve a favorable margin profit. In order to do so, we really need to understand where this ecosystem is going and, of course, where margin erosion occurs across the entire life cycle of being able to actually provide AI services to your end customers. Alrighty. Well, I think many of us understand the explosive growth that the GPU cloud market is seeing. But with explosive growth, that creates rising competition. More and more incumbents are flooding into the market to be able to provide GPU compute as a service to end customers. And this is fantastic, but unfortunately, that's creating a pricing battle at the margin level where everything is becoming a commodity and it's a battle to the lowest price per compute or for the GPUs. Hundreds of billions of dollars are flooding into this market, but in order to actually achieve a favorable outcome, to have a positive return on your investments, and more specifically, over 50% profit margins, businesses and neoclouds need to invest in orchestration. And orchestration is going to allow them to actually provide AI services on top of the GPUs. And I think we all understand this, but it's important to mention AI is becoming the substrate. It's not a workload that you need to bolt on top of the applications that have already been created. And unfortunately, it's creating rising complexity because there's various different types of applications, from monolithic applications to microservice, and of course, heterogeneous applications are coming to the market. So given that all infrastructure in the future will be built for AI infrastructure, where does that put the neoclouds today? And what does the evolution of neoclouds look like? Several years ago, neoclouds were able to provide GPU compute at low price margins. But as more and more businesses flood this market, those margins are decreasing significantly. And it was a race to the bottom on price, with no clear differentiation outside of price. Today, businesses are providing bare metal as a service with raw GPU clusters and hopefully multi-year contracts, but what we're seeing is multi-month contracts. And inherently, it's still commoditized. Now, where the industry and the market is going is the ability to provide full AI stack services on top of these GPUs. Managed inference, fine-tuning of those models, providing machine learning operations, being able to identify chargeback and provide visibility into which tenants are using the most amount of compute. But before you build the bridge to better understand how you actually get to the full stack AI services, I want to be upfront and honest about some of the challenges the businesses are facing, specifically around the ability to get to a software stack that sits on top of these GPUs. Some of these neoclouds and businesses receive 80% of their revenue from a handful of customers, meaning you have single customer dependency that can create significant challenges for your business if one decides to leave because they were able to achieve better GPU cost per GPU or cost per GPU hour. On top of that, we're seeing the depreciation cliff. Businesses, specifically AWS, and I'll touch this in the later slides, have moved their depreciation lifecycle for GPUs from 6 years to 5 years. We have power and supply constraints, bare metal as a service, which the net margins, generally speaking, are anywhere from 14 to 20%. And that creates an environment where you can't absorb the financing cost of purchasing the GPUs, and if hyperscalers decide to reduce the price points of their services. And lastly, which I actually think is the biggest thing, is there is no differentiation today outside of providing compute power. Businesses need to be able to provide a software story on top of the GPUs that enable their customers with the AI services they need to have inferencing, fine-tuning of large language models, and machine learning operations. This is going to allow you to directly compete with hyperscalers when, yes, they may reduce their prices, but you also have the services on top of those GPUs to provide real outcomes. Now, the unique thing here is why businesses need to plan for being able to provide AI services on top of these GPUs. Well, from a customer's perspective, the demand is quite clear. Businesses need to deploy AI workloads at scale. And what we're seeing is it's no longer about proof of concepts or chatbots. What's coming today is fully autonomous systems that at the very low end consume roughly 10 million plus tokens per day. And at the higher end, over 100 million tokens per day. So you can really see the demand for having infrastructure that allows these businesses to actually build fully autonomous systems that are running across all of their enterprise workflows. And these autonomous systems that I'm describing, generally speaking, are leveraging 200 times more tokens than just a developer running Claude Code, Cursor, or Copilot. So the need to create enterprise agentic pipelines that run continuously in an autonomous fashion across all of your enterprise workflows is increasing drastically. So the demand is shifting. So the question is isn't whether which model we should be running at a given time, but how can we actually have our infrastructure be able to support our customers that want to run fully agentic autonomous systems. So let's take a look at the state of play. There's 4 realities you want to hold on to or think about when it comes to your infrastructure investments. Bare metal, of course, is not going away. The ability to train large-scale models and have high-performance GPU clusters is still a need. So NeoClouds with bare metal capabilities still retain a structural advantage. But businesses and NeoClouds are realizing that enterprise IT spend is shifting to inference. More and more businesses need to deploy inference workloads on top of the infrastructure. And many of you may be thinking that our margins are fine today and we'll figure out inference later and multi-tenancy later as a bolt-on, but I want to show you why that assumption may be broken. In the previous slides, I touched on this, the depreciation trap. What we've seen just over the last 18 plus months is H100 rental rates have collapsed from $8 an hour all the way to $2 an hour, a 75% decrease. And the reason why is because more and more new GPUs with better capacity are being created every single year. So when Blackwell ships in volume, you can't just give your hoppers away. On top of this, what we're seeing is the depreciation life cycle of the GPUs is shortening. In 2025, AWS, as mentioned, shortened their GPU life cycle for depreciation from 6 years to 5 years. And that created roughly 700 million in additional depreciation. But there's businesses already modeling a new schedule, and that is a 3-year schedule, which from our perspective is the correct assumption and where the world is going. So this brings us to a conclusion that's quite uncomfortable and unavoidable at this point. And the thought here is the parallel to the early cloud era is exactly the same. Commodity hosting providers that do not build a platform layer are going to be consolidated by the hyperscalers. And the margin math is the same and the window is closing. So the question we have to answer ourselves is, how do we go about it? Everything I've shown you up until this point has been focused on the cloud service providers, the NeoClouds, or the operators. But there's a mirror image that the end customers are seeing as well. And it's taking a look at the problem from your end customers in an opposite direction. And our customers and your customers are struggling just as much as you may be. And the root causes are quite similar. First, 70% of all AI projects fail to reach production. And the number one driver that's killing their initiatives is their infrastructure. And because of this, the average GPU utilization sits anywhere from 15 to 30%, meaning 70 to 85% of your investment is sitting idle. So let's think about how we can make that number a bit more concrete. On 100 H100 GPUs at their current rates, the difference between 25% utilization and 60% utilization is roughly $250,000 per month. That's not an optimization. That's entirely different business model that's hiding inside of the one you already have. This is the challenge that businesses are facing. But utilization control is a bit abstract. So let me be a bit more specific on where exactly we see margin erosion occurring. There's 6 points here that all compound on each other. We've touched on the first one already, idle GPU time. Majority of GPU's capacity is sitting idle, therefore creating siloed clusters, fragmented scheduling, zero chargeback visibility, which creates unmetered revenue leakage, over-provisioned reserves, and of course, zero workload portability, meaning you can't move jobs between clusters or regions to fill the capacity gap. So we've taken a look at the entire picture, the market pressure, the demand shift, the financial trap that many businesses are facing, and of course, here, the specific leakage points. Now, the question that we're all probably asking ourselves is, okay, now what? What is the plan out of this? And the plan out of this is to understand the maturity model for monetization. Here we can see the 4 stages of real monetization across your GPU fleet. In stage 1, with the lowest margins, it's just raw GPU capacity. So bare metal GPU access, it's commoditized pricing, very thin margins, zero differentiation outside of pricing. Stage 2 is providing GPUs as a service. You add basic provisioning, self-service ecosystem or environment that developers can log into, which is going to create slightly better margins, but still this stage is a bit of a commodity. Stage 3 is where the real economics shift. You're beginning to wrap real outcomes and services around the hardware, manage Slurm, inference endpoints, Kubeflow, machine learning ops, and now your customers are able to integrate your services directly into their workflows. This is really where you begin to stop selling compute and start selling AI services on top of that. And the next stage, which is the largest margins, north of 50%, is building an AI factory platform that allows you to have full multi-tenant orchestration, utilization control, chargeback, auto scaling, cross-cluster scheduling, and so forth. You're no longer selling compute, you're selling outcomes. And this is going to allow you to achieve north of 50% margins. Most operators today are in stage 2 with the ability to bolt on some managed AI services on top of that, but not in an automated way. Meaning you need to provision this in a manual environment for each and every single one of your tenants. That is something that unfortunately cannot scale. So what does stage 4 actually look like? Because once you reach stage 4, you're no longer just an infrastructure operator. You start becoming a platform that enables businesses to deploy AI workloads on top of your infrastructure. Here you can see the full range of different services that are provided: managed inference, model serving, fine-tuning pipelines, monitoring, governance, compliance automation, everything that you need to provide to your customers to ensure that you can achieve favorable margins. So the question that every operator should be asking themselves is, how much of this can I deliver without building all of it from scratch? And the first instinct is for businesses to reach for Cube, which totally makes sense. As we know, Kubernetes has become the de facto operating system for the cloud. But the challenge there is the Cube scheduler was built for a world where compute is fungible. One CPU core looks like another, but GPUs are the opposite of fungible. H100s with 80 gigs of HBM3 is fundamentally different than A10s with 24 gigs of GDDR6. But to the scheduler, they're identical. Trading needs to be continuous across the multi-GPU allocation across your NVLink, your physical hardware, and so forth. Essentially meaning all the way from bare metal all the way to the model. You need GPU-aware orchestration, and that is different at every single layer of the stack. So unfortunately, vanilla Kubernetes can't do it, and Slurm can't do it alone either. There is no single point tool that covers the full life cycle. Now, I want to share with everyone here what the proper AI factory reference architecture looks like that we've worked with directly with NVIDIA on this. Let's walk through this from the bottom all the way to the top. At the base, you have your physical infrastructure, your GPUs, your network fabric, your storage. Above that is the compute layer, drivers, runtimes, GPU management, etc. One layer above that is the platform layer, the abstraction that lets the workloads run on bare metal, private cloud, on a Kubernetes ecosystem, virtual machines, you name it. Now, the layer that most NeoCloud architectures are missing entirely is the management and observability layer from metal all the way to model. Every layer here does something incredibly important, but without the layer that actually allows you to interact with every single stage of the AI factory reference architecture, you're enabling and working on each of these layers separately. So the insight I want you to take from this slide is quite simple. The value does not live in any single layer. It lives in the coordination between every layer, from metal all the way to model. This is what turns the collection of hardware and tools into a platform that you can provide to your end customers so they can begin to leverage AI services on top of your infrastructure. That's the architecture. Now, what does it feel like to be the end customer that's able to receive this on the other side? It feels like a hyperscaler, but one that you own. You have a customizable catalog with value-added services that allow you to monetize the infrastructure and build new revenue streams. You enable your customers to have a self-service portal that allows them to deploy, monitor, manage different GPU resources and services faster, allowing you to provision those AI workloads as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Through this, you create automated lifecycle management, reducing the complexity and ensuring real service level agreements across the entire stack. And with this comes observability, tracking resource usage, performance, chargeback metering, ensuring that there is zero revenue leakage for your customers or for yourself. I do want to call this out that Mirantis is one of 3 validated AI cloud ready founding ISV partners. And we are the only open composable platform that allows you to provide bare metal all the way to multi-tenant AI services. And through all of this, we create a declarative approach to AI infrastructure, ensuring secure multi-tenant access to shared AI infrastructure. We integrate observability, policy controls, cost controls directly into the AI workflows. We're able to unify training, inference, machine learning operation pipelines into one single platform. And we deliver cost-efficient AI infrastructure by avoiding dedicated GPU silos for your customers. No longer single tenants on single GPU clusters. This is going to accelerate time to value and help you automate and provision your GPU-aware orchestration. This creates GPU cloud in a box. Rapid multi-tenant GPU clouds, full stack automation for all the way from the network all the way up to the model, consistent and secure operations, and ready to consume AI services on demand that you can offer to your customers. Now, I realize I've been talking about this for roughly 20 plus minutes, So let me show you what it actually looks like when someone does this. You introduce true infrastructure efficiency with a differentiated outcome that allows you to scale and improve your margins. Here is a case study from a European NeoCloud operator that was purpose-built with Cordant AI on top that allows them to provide AI workloads and inference as a service to their end customers. The result that matters the most is their engineers went from spending the majority of their time on infrastructure toil to working on things that actually generate revenue. And this allowed them to expand this to more and more customers across Europe. And that's the move from being a commodity operator providing GPUs as a service all the way to providing AI services on top of your infrastructure that is going to allow you to achieve favorable outcomes and significant profitable margins. Thank you all for joining me today. My name is Edward Ianel, and if anybody here would love a demo of Cordant AI, I would love to give you one. Just send me an email at einl@mirantis.com, and we'll schedule a demo where I personally walk you through what exactly this looks like to be able to deploy these AI services or provide these AI services to your end customers through a seamless, efficient fashion. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat, and I'll take a look at them and answer them. And lastly, no tokens were harmed during creating this presentation.